So now let us talk about other laws. In other laws, we have got security laws and economic laws. And yesterday only I have told you we'll be taking up or we'll be starting with which law? IBC. That is one of the economic laws. 2 security laws and 6 economic laws are there, to be very precise. That means 8 laws are there apart from company law. So we are into now our first other laws, that is IBC, which we are taking. Why we are taking IBC? Yeah, because we've covered just now winding up of companies, so it will be helpful in comparison, in recalling things and all. So that's where we're taking IBC. Now, you know that earlier I have told you that IBC is a bigger law and we don't have the full law. Only section 1 to 59 is what we have in our syllabus. How many? 1 to 59. How do we know that? ICAI notification dated June 24th, 2019. I've told you this earlier as well and written in preface also for you, that whatever we're discussing is as per the syllabus which is notified on June 24th, 2019. Okay. So talking about IBC, we don't have fully, we have only from section number 1 to 59. Now that 1 to 59 which we have to read, we have grouped it into 5 parts. It's our grouping, not grouping of the act. Okay, our grouping of the study which we have to do is what? First of all, introduction. This introduction will have background, preamble plus section 1, section 2, section 3 and section 5. You will say, sir, what is this section 1, section 2, section 3 and 5? 1 and 2 is about title, extent, commencement date. 1 and 2, not just 1. 1 and 2, title, extent and commencement date. So applicability, extent means what? Applicability. That's there in 2. So that's where 1 and 2 I said. Then 3 and 5 is definitions. Oh, 3 as well as 5. Yes. And later on I'll ask you some question relating to this later. So these 3 things we'll study in our introduction. Background, some background, and then preamble, and then these title, extent, commencement as well as definitions. After completing that, which probably will take today, this introduction part including definitions, then tomorrow we'll be able to take up CIR process. Which process? CIR, meaning corporate insolvency resolution process. Meaning what? As I've told you that if we fall sick, does it mean we go and jump somewhere? No. We go to whom? Doctor. For what? Treatment. Same way a company or a business entity or a person becomes financially sick. So does it mean the business should be closed, the affairs should be shut? No. Rather what should be done? Revival, restructuring, rehabilitation should be done. So that's where when we say corporate insolvency resolution, that means you're trying to resolve that insolvency position of the corporate. That is a process that will involve a lot of steps. That's where we cannot call it as activity. We'll call it as what? Process. Process has got a lot of activities and steps. Okay. Then there is another thing called as what? Fast track CIR process, which definitely will not be possible tomorrow, but day after tomorrow. Okay. Today we'll try to cover introduction. Try. That means maybe this may also not be over, but maybe. Then tomorrow CIR process again, which may not be possible to be covered tomorrow, or maybe we can complete depending upon your comfort with the topic. Fast track CIR process for sure day after tomorrow. Liquidation for sure day after tomorrow. Same way voluntary liquidation. So you'll say, sir, okay, fast track CIR process means what? The time taken will be lesser. Then sir, they tried that revival, rehabilitation, resolution, but they were unsuccessful or they are unsuccessful. Then what? Liquidation. And you know voluntary liquidation is also there. That's where we have that as well. So these are the 5 things which we have to read. So I've made 5 groups for our study. Okay? Fine. Acha. If you have noticed one thing from this book, which is given to you, what is written at the first page? Kindly always see that. Maintain a habit of seeing any book, not just this book or this subject. What is written there? Applicable for November 2019 exam and onwards. Sir, November 19 exam over already. We are going to write May 20, November 20. What sir, you have given old book. My dear friends, kindly note, in company law, all the amendments which takes place 6 months before the attempt is always applicable unless I say excludes. But when it comes to security laws or economic laws, only those amendments which ICAI made it applicable, makes it applicable for you, will only be applicable. So that means generally amendments come, it is not going to be applicable to us in economic and security law unless ICAI says it is applicable. But in company law, it is not like that. Company law, some amendment comes applicable unless they say it is not applicable. It is like that. So when will they issue this list of amendments which are applicable for May 2020 examination? Obviously after 31st of October only. So now November is going on. Correct? So they may issue now in November. No, why no? December, January, but definitely not April, you'll say. Main examination April, they'll say which amendments are applicable. No. So normally what we see, they can issue in November also, but normally what we see, we have observed is they give it in the month of January when they come up with RTP, revision test paper. Earlier they used to issue separately. Now they, from recent past, they've started clubbing that with RTP. So when the RTP is released, RTP these days contains even the amendments which are applicable for the attempt. Did you understand? But don't be so much, what do you say, sad, or maybe I'll say don't think too much on it, because normally the list of amendments which is there is lesser in these laws. Maybe FEMA there are more amendments you'll find taking place, otherwise other laws normally amendments are very less, and out of those also ICAI takes time to apply it to examination. So if some amendment has come now, they may not apply immediately, they may take a year or two also. They wait and then apply. So you'll say, sir, why like this? And the answer is very simple. If you remember, company law, expert knowledge, expertise, so updated to the extent possible, that's where 6 months cut off. But security laws and economic laws, no one is expecting an expertise from you, right? A fair knowledge, working knowledge, if you develop with basics to be sound, obviously, then that means job done. No, sir, I want to become an expert in IBC, I want to become IP. Yes, after becoming chartered accountant, work in that field, you'll become an expert. But when it comes to company law, we want you to become an expert now itself to the extent possible. Same way Income Tax Act, GST, to the extent possible, we want you to become expert now itself. That's why that much of depth in the subject or the level is advanced. Is it clear? So now, when do you think I'll be able to share those list of amendments with you? Come on guys, when do you think I'll be able to share the list of amendments with you? Right, so that is where, if you just observe, I've written that as well. If you come to preface, I've written there, kindly note that all the relevant amendments applicable for May or November 2020 attempt shall be sent by way of handout as and when ICAI issues a notification or RTP for the same. So don't ask me now next month, sir, where is the list of amendment for economic laws? Unless you have seen RTP has come, list of amendments are there, sir has not sent, then obviously you have the right to question me, what happened, sir? So you'll have to hold on, you have to wait till that is issued. Okay, all of you understood, no? I am repeating again, any book you take, whether it is corporate and economic laws, auditing, IDT, or anything, please check the date first. The book is updated till which particular date and is applicable for which attempt. That is very important. You believe it or not, before this IDT examination, now the November examination which we are just got just over yesterday, one student of mine called me before DT exam. IDT exam she had to write, so DT. So today she completed that optional paper, and the next day she called. That means the next day was DT paper. A day before DT paper she called and she said, sir, I have read IDT from a book which is not applicable for November 19 attempt, and I was not aware of it at all. So I said, which attempt then you have read? She said November 18. So I don't have amendments now for 1 year period. So please help. Now tell me, and she's asking this a day before DT. For sure, don't you think she'll spoil DT paper as well? The mistake, the blunder, she didn't check the date. And suddenly she saw and she was in panic mode. So this is what can happen. That's where maintain a habit. Like you see the design, my photo, right? This, that, no? How many pages? Like that same way, start checking this. Make it a habit. Any book you take, see whether updated, making sense or not. Then continue. Now what happened to that student? I even don't know, because she did. I helped her with those amendments, no doubt, because I have contacts as well, teachers, friends. So we have helped her. But then what exactly happened to her in DT paper or IDT, I don't know, because she didn't update. But I'm just giving an example like this, what can happen, what can go wrong. Okay? Chalo. So now let us talk about what? One more thing. Krishna, kindly note. And others obviously will note. Glossary relating to this topic as well. Specifically, what you can do for this topic instead of just staring at me and making me realize again and again that I'm handsome. What you can do? Prepare few things. Write a few things so that you will also be alive in the class. Time limits. You'll come up with, again, you'll come across a lot of limits here for this chapter. Or for this topic, not chapter, I'll say topic. So you can prepare a list. Then you will find some cases where they'll say as specified by IBBI. As specified by IBBI. Okay, what is IBBI? A board, an authority like SEBI you have, no? Same way Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India. Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India. That way we have, okay, in some provisions we'll find they say as specified by IBBI. So which all cases, which all scenarios that is written, you can prepare a list of that so that later on it is easy for you. Then stages again here also. Stages again here as well. When we are reading CIR process, what are the list of stages? When we are reading liquidation, what are the stages? You can prepare the list of stages again. Then you know one thing which I have told you earlier only, that repayment queue between Companies Act and winding up you have to distinguish, you have to compare. So that is there. Then winding up of Companies Act and liquidation under IBC, that you can compare. Winding up we read under Companies Act. Now we are reading liquidation here under IBC. That means you can compare these two. Sir, here they use the term liquidation or winding up? Here they use the term liquidation. They could have used winding up here also, but they've used liquidation. Then even you can compare voluntary liquidation with part 4 which we have just now read. Part 4 of what? Chapter 20. 20 of what? Companies Act 2013. That is nothing but summary way of winding up by official liquidators. So that you can compare with voluntary liquidation. When will you compare this? After voluntary liquidation, obviously. Then list of abbreviations you can prepare. Meaning RP will use. Not just me. You will find books also using that. RP. Resolution Professional. IP. Insolvency Professional. CIR. Corporate Insolvency Resolution. IBBI. Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India. Like that we'll be using, what I'm saying is we'll be using some abbreviations. So you can prepare a list of that. It will be easy for you later. Otherwise, maybe who knows, you may get confused. Then list of important court decisions. Meaning here when we are reading this law, few points probably has to be understood with the help of case law. How and all we'll discuss later. So when I discuss that, probably you can prepare a list. You say, sir, no, we cannot prepare. Don't worry. Anyways, I have prepared that list and kept it for you. All cases at one place. Because from examination point of view also, you have to go through that. So I've done it. Sir, others I have not done. You have to do it. Okay. This I have done it and kept it. Then you will find sometimes the approval needs to be taken from 51% or more than 51% of the members. Okay. Sometimes you'll find 66% has to approve. Sometimes 75%, sometimes 90%. Acha, 51 OR sir, 75 SR sir. Yes. Apart from that, what do we have? Two more SRs. But which type of SRs? 66% and 90. You remember what is SR? Huh? What was the use of those fundamentals which we have discussed in Companies Act? If you ask me this question, how can you say sir 66 and 90 is SR? As I have told you earlier, anything more than ordinary means is SR. That is where Companies Act gave a clarification that when we say SR, it is not 60, 65, but it is 75 and above which will amount to SR. Didn't we read the definition of resolution? Section 2 said resolution means as defined under 114, and then when we went to 114 ordinary and special we have read, that time I gave you the background also. Come on my dear friends, recall that. Understood? So 51 is ordinary, and then three types of SR they're talking about: 66, 75 and 90. So do you think they will have to specify time and again whether it is 66, whether it is 75, 90? Obviously yes, otherwise how will we understand? In company law they were writing SR and they were not specifying SR by 75%. Earlier in definition only they mentioned that SR means what? 75%. So it was so easy for us. Here they will mention, and accordingly we have to take. Okay, so you can prepare a list of that as well. And one more anyways, you know, what is that? What is that? Critical points. So don't stop. These are some formats which you can prepare and keep it ready and fill it up as and when you can do it. And after those formats you can write critical points, and one after the other when we are discussing anything you can prepare the list of the same, or maybe you can write the same. Okay, now you might ask, sir, how many pages should I leave? Time limits 1 or 2 pages. 2 pages maybe you can leave, or 1.5 page. As specified by IBBI, half page will be enough. Stages with time limits, obviously 1 page for CR process, same way 1 page for liquidation. So 2 pages you will be required, because we're discussing the both, no, liquidation as well as CR. There we discuss only winding up, that means liquidation, Companies Act. But here we're discussing two things. Oh my dear friends, what is those two things here? CIR process, resolution process. If resolution process fails, then we said liquidation. What is the idea behind IBC? Liquidation. Revival, resolution. If it's not possible, then liquidation. Please keep it in head. Don't forget it. If someone says IBC is for liquidation, tell them you're wrong. IBC is not for liquidation. IBC is for revival, resolution, restructuring. If that doesn't happen or is not possible, then liquidation. It's always like that. Do you think you've understood this? Then repayment queue, obviously 1 page will be enough for both. Comparison, then winding up, this 1.5 page, same way this 1.5 page comparison, these two. List of abbreviations, obviously 1 page is enough. Important quotations, anyways I said I will provide, don't, so you just forget it, I'll take care of it. And then approvals, you can prepare 1 page you can reserve for that. Critical points can after that. Yeah. So after reserving these pages or keeping the formats ready or keeping those headings ready, then critical points would follow. So as and when you feel something in introduction is critical, or CIR process something critical, you can continue writing. Or you want to prepare some executive summary when we are discussing and you want to write keywords, you are free to do that. But keep writing, don't just listen to me. Listening is good, but then supported by writing. Not too much writing, otherwise you will not listen to me. Okay, sir. So now what is code? Okay, IBC, you know the full form, Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. So first question which comes up is what? What is a code? We've discussed this earlier. Compilation of various laws, rules, regulations at one place, and then making suitable changes in the form of what? Modification or additions or deletions. to make it a complete system, to make it a comprehensive law. That is code. So I've written that for you. What is a code? Collection of laws. Come on, nothing but compilation of laws, rules, regulations that are systematically arranged where new law may be added, existing one can be repealed to constitute a complete system. No one will ask this in examination, huh? I mean your IC examination. Life examination, yes, people may ask. Now let's talk about introduction. If you remember, we said earlier that if a company is facing that financial stress, if LLP is facing financial stress, same way partnership or some other associations, or maybe an individual, a sole proprietor is facing that financial stress, what used to happen earlier? We used to go to different laws. If sole proprietor will go to some law, partnership firm will go to some other law, LLP will go to some other law, same way Companies Act at respective provisions. Okay, like that we had different laws, and every person will go to different laws, and authority is also different. They said, what nonsense. When they're dealing in one thing, okay, when we are talking about one thing, that is financial stress, why like this? Why can't we have a centralized law whereby all the type of persons, associations can come, even authority we can decide, so that we should not have multiple authorities. It becomes so easy. Okay, that is where what IBC has come. So do you think this is a major economic reform or minor economic reform? Major, obviously major. Now one thing I would like to just tell you from my side, don't try to say IBC is bad, because when you read newspapers, people are criticizing IBC a lot, because IBC has not given the desired results till now. If you just start reading newspapers relating to IBC, you'll find it's not that successful which we thought. So there are a lot of fingers raised now, there are a lot of critical reviews being done of IBC. We will not do that. Don't take negativity. Okay, first read this, then if you want, oh sir, what are the challenges, why practically it is not successful, then we'll discuss. But don't bring that in between, because you will be questioning otherwise again and again. How can this happen, sir? Why did they write this, sir? How is it practically possible? Don't do that. Just read first this complete law. After understanding this, then if you want, okay, we will have that critical analysis if you want after that, but not in between. That will spoil your understanding and will create confusion only. Okay, so let us keep it separate, that critical analysis, okay, or the practical viewpoint. Followed or not? Yes, sir, what you said we have understood, but probably not properly understood. Okay, one example I'll give you. They are saying that CR process should be completed within 180 days. How much time? Yes. What is this CR process? CR process means coming up with a revival plan. So a person who's appointed as a resolution professional, who will be called as first IRP, interim resolution professional, then later RP, will have to study everything, make a revival plan within what time? Okay, and he'll not prepare. There's some resolution applicant who will prepare with the help of resolution professional, and then they have to hold the meeting of committee of creditors, get the approval from them, then go to NCLT, get their approval also on that particular resolution plan. All that within what? 180. Quite challenging. Next to like impossible, but they have kept this. We were used to like 4 to 5 years. Just imagine, from 4 to 5 years, they want you to bring it down to 6 months. 180 days, so that means 6 months. They said extension will give. Extension how much? 90 days. As if they've done a big thing. Right? This is how people are criticizing. They're saying 270 days, 180 plus 90 if we take, 270 also is like, from 4 to 5 years, immediately you're asking us to come down to what? 9 months. Not happening. Practically becoming difficult. So they're criticizing this particular law on various things. We will not do that. We'll just study 180 days, and if not possible, further 90 days. Fast track means 90 days. If it is not possible, further 45 days. Whether good, bad, let's not talk about it. Let's not get into that. Then there's no end to this discussion. Okay? So let's come back here. It's a major economic reform. and that to creditor driven insolvency resolution. See, normally what used to happen was earlier, it was the members, promoters who used to bother about the revival plan. They used to make it. They used to think about how to revive the company. But then now the thinking has changed. They said anyways they have only managed the company all these years. So what difference they will make? They'll again come up with something, right? Old wine in the new bottle. So if we want really something different out of the box and all, let's call those people only to whom money has not been paid. That means the creditors. Let them come here and take the charge for some time. And we'll help them. It's not that we'll not help. We'll provide a professional to them. All other things are there. Okay. Then let this be a creditor-driven insolvency resolution rather than promoters and management, shareholders and management. So they're like statue. Whom did they say statue, or whom will they say statue? Members, promoters, management. There's a statue. Wait, we're doing it. All of you are able to follow? Yes, sir. So it's a creditor-driven. Acha. Do you think the focus will be on time as well here? Yes, not just make it hassle-free, not just make it like simple, but also time-bound. The focus is on time as well. As I said, 180, 90, 90, 45, they're talking about for 4 to 5. So not just different authorities we don't want. We want to have one authority, we want to have single authority, we want to have single law, but also, so this is what, trying to make it simple, but also time-bound. Able to understand? So just see here, major economic reform, where focus is on creditor-driven insolvency resolution. There were multiple overlapping laws and adjudicating forums dealing with financial failures and insolvency of corporates and non-corporates in India, leading to delays and complexities. So that's where they thought of what? IBC. If there were no delays, if they were able to take care properly, if there are no overlapping laws, do you think they would have thought of IBC? No. So this is one of the reasons why they thought. Now don't give me surprise. You have shared this, no? Then IBC is to facilitate easy and time bound. Easy and time bound revival. But if revival not possible, closure of business in India. Don't say directly closure. Okay, this is not for closure. This is for revival. If revival not possible, then closure may happen. Is it clear? Okay, sir. Now few more. Introduction not over. As you know, it will go on till definitions we complete. Okay, next. Few more things. Before IBC 2016. Acha, 1 minute. Now when you're writing critical points, what will you pick from this? Creditor driven insolvency. This is first thing. Don't write major economic reform. All that not required. Just critical ones. So creditor driven insolvency resolution. Then this reason multiple overlapping laws and not required that you have no code. So you know that. But you will write facilitate easy and time bound. Revival or closure. Easy and time bound. Revival or closure. Revival. Highlight that properly. Revival or closure. Okay, that's it. Don't write too much. Already you have these notes with you. Isn't it? Afterwards you'll have, no? Now before IBC 2016, which were those 8 laws? Which were there? Companies Act, anyways, you know. From where they've taken the provisions. LLP Act. Indian Partnership Act. Indian Partnership Act. SARFAESI Act. These 4 plus 4 more. Which 4 more? SICA. Recovery of Debts Due to Banks and Financial Institutions Act. Recovery of Debts Due to Banks and Financial Institutions Act. Then even Presidency Township Insolvency Act. Presidency Township Insolvency Act. And one more is Provincial Insolvency Act. 8 laws from where they've taken provisions. Okay, Companies Act, which is 1956 and 2013 both. Then SICA, that is Sikh Industrial Companies Act. Recovery of Debts Due to Banks and Financial Institutions Act. Okay, in short I have written RDD-BFI. Then SARFAESI Act, Presidency Township Insolvency Act, Provincial Insolvency Act, LLP Act and also Indian Partnership Act. The ones which are marked in yellow for you, if you could see, 4 I have marked in yellow, are the ones which are there in your syllabus. And somewhere you have read Foundation, Interfinal. Companies Act, Interfinal. Now Foundation also it is there. Then SARFAESI Act, final you have. LLP Act, Foundation you have. Indian Partnership Act, Foundation you have. Foundation, CPT. So that way somewhere a part of CA curriculum, CA syllabus. And the other 4, out of the other 4, if you just observe something is marked in red, my dear friends, please see here, have a look. 3 out of 4, 3 are marked in red. Why? Because they're completely abolished. They're completely abolished, repealed. And 1 which is not marked in red out of those 4, that is Recovery of Debts Due to Banks and Financial Institution Act, is still existing. But provisions have been taken from there and kept it here, like they did for Companies Act, as you know. Part number 2 removed and kept it here. Clear? So to remember, the clue is 4 plus 4. 4 which you are aware of or which you have in your CA curriculum: Companies Act, LLP Act, Partnership Act and SARFAESI Act. And the other 4, SICA. Come on, first we'll talk about those which are repealed. SICA, township. See, remember like this. President has come to town. Provincial insolvency, don't say provincial township insolvency. No. Province, town, don't mix it. President has come to town. So Presidency in Township Insolvency Act and then Provincial Insolvency Act. Plus 1 more is there in this 4th one, which is Recovery of Debts. Debts due to whom? Banks and Financial Institutions Act. 4 plus 4. Sir, important to remember? Yes. MCQs. It becomes important. They might give you the laws and they might state which one is not out of these 4, which one is not. Or they may say out of these 4, which one is correct, or they may give combinations, as you know. They may write first, second, third, fourth, and then A, 1 and 2, B, 2 and 3, like that they may give you, no. So you have to remember all the 8 names. Fine, sir. Next. Some facts, and before some facts, please tell me now, is there a possibility that some law may have conflict with IBC? Like Companies Act, can it have conflict with IBC? Yes, it might have. So when you find there's a conflict with IBC, what shall prevail? IBC. If we are talking about revival, if you are talking about closure, because revival not possible and closure as per IBC, then IBC has to prevail. Right? So as you rightly said, it's written here also in section 238. Where did they write this? 238. Now you may say, sir, we don't have that in syllabus. 1 to 59 only is there in our syllabus. Yeah, but we need to know this type of thing, though it is there or not there in the syllabus. That's why I'm just giving a reference there. If conflict between IBC and any act with respect to what? Revival or closure, then IBC shall prevail. Some facts before you. No one will ask in examination. It's just for common or general knowledge. Average time taken for insolvency resolution, as I've told you, was what? 4 to 5 years. That means 4.5 years in India. How much time we said? 4 to 5. That means 4.5 years. Whereas in Singapore, how much time? 8 months. UK, Australia, 1 year. That's where we said, let's have it 180 days. If not, further 90 days. That means 270 days. That means 9 months. Targeting, because we have to compete with them. It's challenging, but they're saying let's accept this challenge. Let's work towards that challenge. Then second one, if you just observe, the lowest recovery ratio of 20% of the debt value is there in India as per the World Bank report. Meaning if you give 100 rupees to someone, how much will you recover? 20. This is what happens in India, it seems, in most of the cases. So that's where, again, an astonishing and surprising, shocking, not surprising, I'll say, shocking fact before you. Out of around some 5,000 outstanding winding up cases, approximately some 1,200 cases are pending since more than 20 years. Approximately 5,000 outstanding winding up cases. How many are outstanding since more than 20 years? Around 1,200. More than 20 years, just imagine winding up is going on. Around 1200 cases. See how much time we are taking to close down businesses. You might have also seen that beside your house, maybe there is some building closed since years and years. There's some litigation going on and going on. Some mall getting constructed, then in between they stop and case goes on, goes on, goes on. Time, we're forgetting something called as time here. So that's where IBC, if you understand. Then, and also one more thing, 1 lakh cases is outstanding cases in DRT plus 4,000 getting added every year to it. How many outstanding? 1 lakh and 4,000 added every year. Like if you Google today world's population, just do today world's population and you see how the rate, that particular number will keep changing in seconds. Fast. That is how here also fast. Anytime check that वर्ल्ड गूगल में आज करो वर्ल्ड पॉपुलेशन बोल के डाल आता वो नंबर, वो पॉपुलेशन में बर्थ रेट, डेथ रेट, they'll give. So fraction of second and number will change. Probably number will change faster than fraction of second actually, than the second moves. At that rate where the population of the world is growing, but death rate is also growing. Or India ka birth rate is to like, because the country wise also you can see if you want. China and India, you just compare. Something really surprising. So somewhere we need to understand. Come here. Rupees 20,000 crore getting locked up every year in NPAs. 20,000 crore. That is also a lesser number because it's old data. Now you know Malias and Modis, Nirav Modis and Choksis and all. So this is how they felt that there is a need for a strong regulation, strong law, and they thought of what? Something called as IBC. Then, Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. So what is insolvency? What is bankruptcy? Is we need to understand clearly before we step into anything else. So my dear friends, please understand what is insolvency. Insolvency means it's a state or a position where you think maybe the liabilities are more than assets. Where you doubt that the liability seems to be more than assets. And if treated well, what will happen? Resolution, revival. If not treated well, then will lead to what? Liquidation, closure. Sir, what is it? You said insolvency is a situation, is a position, is a state where liability seems to be more than assets. And liability seems to be more than assets means far more than assets. Huh? Not 100 rupees and 101 like that. It's far more. Okay. And maybe if treated well, revival, resolution. If not treated well, liquidation, closure. Okay, sir. What is bankruptcy? Proceedings where they will evaluate the assets, where they'll value the assets, also value the liabilities and come to a conclusion. That conclusion is nothing but bankruptcy. And this word we use for non-corporates, whereas for corporates we use the term liquidation. That means if you understand, insolvency is a doubt, is just your opinion, but the conclusion is bankruptcy. So sir, ideally they should have kept the name as Insolvency and Revival Code, not IBC, IRC. Insolvency and revival. So insolvency, the doubt comes and all, then they have to revive it well, because the idea is revival. If not, then liquidation. Or someone will say, sir, but if revival not possible, then liquidation, no. So they should have kept the name as what? Insolvency and Liquidation Code. But it's not about corporates, it's about even non-corporates. Oh, then they should have kept the name as Insolvency and Bankruptcy or Liquidation Code. Yes, we know that, but somewhere something has to be picked. This is only a title. So they have picked bankruptcy and kept it. Achha, so can I say now like liquidation and bankruptcy is same? Yes, corporates it is liquidation, conclusion. Liquidation means conclusion again, and bankruptcy also conclusion, but that's for non-corporates. We may use these two terms interchangeably. For us, insolvency and bankruptcy is same. Please understand here. A state or a situation or a position where liability seems to be more than assets, meaning not literally more than, we'll say far more than assets. If untreated, then leads to what? Bankruptcy in case of non-corporates and liquidation in case of corporates. If treat them well, then obviously the resolution takes place, revival takes place. Guys, come on. Then bankruptcy, a conclusion which will happen out of legal proceedings, right? And begin how? With a petition filed by debtor or creditors, where assets are measured and evaluated to repay debts. Whether there will be enough to repay debts or not, they will be valuing it. And if unable to pay debts, they know they are unable to, then what? Bankruptcy. This is for non-corporates. Liquidation means what? For corporates. Insolvency for whom? For anyone. Corporates, non-corporates, anyone. Insolvency. Not treating well means, I've written there, not treating well means, come on guys, read. No, I've explained also. Bankruptcy for non-corporates, liquidation for corporates. If not treated well, untreated. Treated means resolution. Okay. Will the sir, will they ask this in examination? Obviously no. But then you don't know this and you're reading the law, doesn't make sense. Someone may say, sir, we don't need expert knowledge. Why are you wasting time? Arey, this is not expert knowledge, this is basic knowledge. This fundamental at least you should know. Liquidation anyways, you know, you don't have to see that as well because we have read already winding up. But you just read this question which is written there. A bankrupt would be a conclusive insolvent, whereas all insolvencies will not lead to bankruptcies. Correct or not? Yes. Because when you say bankrupt, that means concluded. What you were thinking, no? That liability seems to be, that's proven. So all a bankrupt would be a conclusive insolvent, whereas all insolvencies will not lead to bankruptcy, because if they treat it well, then they may not get into those bankruptcies. Okay. Now let's talk about the preamble. Preamble of what? IBC. IBC 2016 obviously. What is preamble? Meaning of preamble? Objective in short. Where are the objective in detail given? Statement of objects and reasons. Very good. Statement of objects and reason. Earlier I have told you this in our basic classes again. So what is the preamble of IBC? Sir, first thing we for sure know, consolidating and amending, isn't it? Yes, of course, there's no IBC 2000, we know that. But then we know IBC is a compilation of various laws, so obviously to consolidate and amend as per the requirement of law relating to what? Insolvency and bankruptcy. Of whom? Corporates and non-corporates, companies, LLP, like that. So corporates and non-corporates. This is for sure there as a preamble. There in the preamble. No? Next. What do you think can be more there in preamble? Sir, establish IBBI. For sure, one of the objectives can be what? Establish IBBI, that board, Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India. That will be there. Then, come on, what else? Close down the companies? No, sir, revive. If not, then close down. So when they close or when they think of closure, do you think maximize the value or minimize the value? Maximize the value. The idea is to promote business or? Yeah, promote. So how will that happen? Increase credit availability. Increase credit availability. Understand? Time bound resolution we want. So these are few things which we have in preamble. If you just have a look now. Consolidate and amend the law relating to reorganization and insolvency resolution of corporates and non-corporates. Fixed time period for execution of law in time bound manner. maximize the value of assets, promote entrepreneurship, increase credit availability, balance the interest of all stakeholders. This is an important point. Balance interest of all stakeholders. Just because we said creditors driven resolution doesn't mean take care of only creditors. No, all. Workmen, employees, you talk about members, everyone's interest has to be taken care. Who's driving it? It's creditors. So that's why it's a creditor driven. It's not only creditor focused law. Okay, it's a creditors driven, but focus should be on all the stakeholders. So balance the interest of all stakeholders. Establish IBBI as a regulatory body. Okay, sir. Consolidate and amend, we understood. Establish IBBI, we understood. Executing in time-bound manner, we understood. Maximize the value of assets. How will that happen? Because of time-bound. More the time you take, value of the asset will come down. You know, depreciation is not just because of usage, but also, yeah, based on time, no? So we understand, more the time, lesser the value. So their idea is time-bound so that maximize the value. And when you know that there are ways now of recovering your money, do you think you would not mind giving money to others? If you know there are ways and means of recovering your money, there is law supporting it, do you think then you will not mind giving money? Yes, because you have that assurance, oh, something goes wrong, there's a law which will prevent my rights, protect me, and helping me to get the money, recover the money. So that will definitely lead to what? Increase in credit availability, because you don't mind giving finances, don't mind giving money. And if you increase credit availability, what will happen? Entrepreneurship, business, or you say, sir, entrepreneurship, okay, whatever way you pronounce. So will go up? No. Funds there, business will go up. More and more business. Now these days you find more and more startups. That means people are ready to fund. It's only that you need to have a good idea. And if you have good law to recover money as well, strong law, people will be more motivated. So this is all the idea behind IBC. Preamble, right? Preamble. Preamble means what? Objective in short. This is what they want to achieve. This is what they want to do through IBC is what they're saying. Sir, can this be asked in examination? No. This is only for our understanding purpose. Who will ask write the preamble? No one will ask at this stage, CA final. But we should know. Now, some unique features of IBC. That means in a way summary of IBC. But some, not full summary, some part of it. Unique features. Sir, one we got to know. That insolvency resolution process should be completed within 180. If not, further 90. And if it is fast track CIR process, 90. If not, then 45. Extension of 45. That means exactly half. 180, 90. 90 extension made to 45. So exactly half. 270, 135. This is one of the unique features. Then it's a creditor driven resolution process. Right? Instead of promoters, management, shareholders looking into it, it is the creditors driven. With the help of IP, they will be able to. So this is another unique feature. First they'll try revival, then if not possible, then only what? Liquidation. So IBC doesn't aim at liquidation. IBC aims at revival, reorganization, restructuring. If not possible or cannot be done, that is where liquidation may come. Then you know there is IBBI. This is another unique feature. There is another regulator here. IBBI, which will regulate whom? IPs, IPAs, IUs. Sir, IPs they will regulate. Okay, we understood IP means insolvency professional. Like we have registered values and all. Same way we've got what? Insolvency professional. Fine. What is IPA? Insolvency professional agency. IP is always the member of IPA. Like registered valuer is the member of registered valuer organization, RVO. Same way here, IPA. Then sir, what is IU? Information utility. What? Information utility. That means nothing but a database. Okay, information. So database, which can be utilized for what purpose? To find out. Find out what? The financial information pertaining to a person. Now you don't have to depend upon the debtor for the information. You also can get the information from IU. That's the idea. So all the financial information will keep going to whom? IU. IU will keep the database. and you need, suppose as a creditor, you have to decide whether to give money to this particular person or not. You say, sir, we'll ask that person to submit balance sheet of last 3 years, this, that and all. So that means your dependency is there on that person, no? Now Preeti comes to me and says, sir, I want loan. I'll ask Preeti to submit the documents. Who knows she has manipulated? Or who knows she doesn't submit, even in spite of my reminders? So now I don't have to depend on her. I can go to home, IU, information utility. Sir, is it completely established? Obviously not. It is taking time, but yes, it's there. So who will regulate this IU, this database? IBBI. IBBI is a regulator regulating IP, IPAs, IUs. Okay? Fine, sir. Then adjudicating authority here. NCLT for corporates and DRT for non-corporates. DRT, Debt Recovery Tribunal. So now you might ask, sir, NCLT, but which NCLT? As established under Companies Act. There is no separate NCLT here. Like I have told you this type or this way, even in Companies Act. SEBI, when we come across the word SEBI under Companies Act, they gave a definition and said what? SEBI means as established under SEBI Act. It's not a separate SEBI of Companies Act. SEBI under SEBI Act. Same way, this NCLT means not NCLT established under IBC. This NCLT means established under Companies Act. Same section 408. That is same NCLT. DRT. Which DRT? Established under IBC? No. Established under Recovery of Debts Due to Banks and Financial Institutions Act. RDDBFI Act, we said no. Out of those 8 laws, one was what? Recovery of debts. Come on, speak once, no? Recovery of debts due to Banks and Financial Institutions Act. Sometimes please speak as well. It will help you to retain. Recovery of debts due to Banks and Financial Institutions Act. So there it is established DRT. So the same DRT they are using here. But are we going to read about DRT? No. Because we have only section 1 to 59 which is about corporates. It's not about non-corporates. And in corporates also some area we are not having in syllabus. Because after 59 also there is something pertaining to corporates, but that is not there in our syllabus. Okay, so IBBI regulator is there, regulating IP, IPAs, IUs. Then we have adjudicating authority in the form of NCLT, DRT, depending on corporate, non-corporates. Achha, NCLT passing some order, can we appeal? Yes, with whom? NCLAT. NCLAT passing some order but still unhappy, then Supreme Court. So appellate structure is same. And if you talk about DRT, then we have DRAT and then Supreme Court. But as I said, we will not get into that because we don't have enough syllabus. Just for information sake, I am telling you DRT, DRAT, Supreme Court. What is the full form of DRT? Debt Recovery Tribunal. Debt Recovery Tribunal. And DRAT, Debt Recovery Appellate Tribunal. And Supreme Court obviously. Okay, so let's see what are those unique features. Few I have mentioned. It's a comprehensive law. I hope you know the word comprehensive. What do you mean by comprehensive? Covering all. Yeah, you're not leaving anything. So that way it's comprehensive law. Withdrawing. Come on, English no. Withdrawing multiple laws so that they can create a single platform for all reliefs and recovery of debts and insolvency. Low time resolution, 180 days plus extension of 90, except for fast track where it is 90 plus 45. Then one window clearance, no separate laws governed by separate authorities, appropriate by the same authority, one authority. That's the idea. Then clarity in process here, shift of control from shareholders, promoters to whom? Creditors. That's why I said creditor driven resolution process. Then coming to adjudicating authority. Come on guys, one authority. NCLT, corporates. And in case of the non-corporates, it will be DRT. Then protects the interest of all the stakeholders. So protects even interest of employees, workmen and all as well. Balance the interest of stakeholders, we said, right? Then new regulatory authority in the form of IBBI, regulating whom? IPs, IPAs and even information utilities, that is IUs. In short, we are calling it as IUs. Sir, practically also people are calling like this. Yes, that's where I said you have to be well versed with these terms. People might say IP and you may say, what is this IPA? So better you also be well versed with these type of terminology which is used in practical world. Then establishment of IU will reduce the risk of credit in the economy. How come? Now Preeti asked me a loan. I wanted some information. I'll go to IU and get it. So on the basis of the correct information, now I'll take a decision whether to allow that credit or give that money, give that financial assistance to Preeti or not. Isn't it? So don't you think my risk is getting reduced? Yes. So that's what they're saying, will reduce the risk of credit in the economy. Not just my risk, like that any lender who wants to lend, his risk gets reduced. So overall in the economy, you'll find that this is what being done. So these are some unique features of IBC. To put them in a nutshell, we'll say IBC is a plan to refurbish prevailing bankruptcy laws and replace them with one single, which facilitates hassle-free and time-bound revival and closure of business in India. No parallel proceedings by different parties on same debtor in different forums, and no conflict between laws and even jurisdiction. Unnecessarily, we don't want too many laws, too many authorities, and too many conflicts. One law, one authority will always help. Then, no asymmetry of information. What is this asymmetry? Sir, opposite of symmetry. Symmetry means what? Uniformity. So, no asymmetry means basically symmetry. Symmetry means uniformity. So, now if Preeti says something wrong, she has given information, but she is giving wrong information. I can very well check with what? IU. I'll know whether she has given wrong or right information. Correct? No symmetry of information will happen here. In a nutshell, I'm saying what is IBC. And then no malfeasance and mismanagement by promoters also, because it is creditors driven resolution. So this way, in a nutshell, IBC is a beautiful law trying to revive the economy. That's where major economic reform. Why are we reading this? Syllabus, you're right, we're right, but then why is it there in our syllabus? We are chartered accountants, we deal with what? Business world, we deal with the economy, right, on a day-to-day basis. That is what we're doing. No, whom are we supporting daily? Tell me. Sir, some private limited company is my client, sir. Some partnership firm is my client, sir. Like that only you say. Or you say, sir, some housewife is my client, some student is my client. Whom do you assist? Yeah, businesses. You assist businesses, business world, economy. So that is where we have to read. Okay. Now for general information or general knowledge again, I want to understand, are there different types of failures? Yes, sir. And do you think type of failure will decide the revival steps? Yes, sir. Because if you don't know the type of failure, then how will you revive it? Or how will you rectify it? How will you take measures? It's important, no? Reasons for failure also important. So how many types of failures do you think normally we talk about in businesses? Financial failure and business failure. Okay? Financial failure and business failure. Two types. Now what is financial failure? What is business failure? We want to understand that. Come on, guess. It's very easy. Financial, business. Right? When we also don't clear the examination, what should we do? Sir, blame the ICI. I've told you the other day, no blaming game. Find out the mistakes, find out the problems and try to rectify. Same way we are saying failure here, two types, financial, business, based on which we can decide what steps to be taken. So what is financial failure? When you are not able to manage your payables, when you are not able to manage your expenses well, that means you are having revenue, you are having receipts, but then you are unable to match them with the payables. That's what is financial failure. What about business failure? Not able to generate revenue only. The business is a failure. Suppose I don't get students only. Which type of failure it is? Business failure. I get students, I get money as well, but then I'm like spending too much, not taking care of my expense or cost. then which type of failure it will lead to? Financial failure. So do you think based on this failure now, I have to decide what steps to be taken? If it is a business failure and I'm just thinking of reducing my cost, will it help? No. If it is financial failure and I'm incurring more promotional cost and all to get, this is not going to help. So that's where I'm saying it's important to understand these two types of failures. It will be helpful in your understanding later. In exam, they'll not ask you this. But in introduction, I've kept this. Okay. So a persistent mismatch, persistent, continuous, consistently mismatch between what? Payments and receivables. Even though business model is generating revenues. Financial failure, huh? Now business failure, breakdown in the business model and unable to generate sufficient revenues to meet the payments. So now question is, all business failures leads to financial failure and not vice versa. Am I right? Good. Certainly yes. All business failures will lead to financial failure. But it is not like financial failure will lead to business failure. It doesn't happen this way. True, no? Now let's discuss the structure of this law. As I said, for our study purposes, we have made some 5 groups, 5 paths. That was different. Now I am talking about in the Bare Act. When you see, you will find this particular whole law is divided into parts. How many parts? 1 to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So what is this one pertaining to? Preliminary, basics. Section 1, 2, 3 is covered. 1, 2, extent, applicability, commencement date, title. Okay. And 3, definitions. Okay, sir. Then part 2, insolvency, resolution and liquidation for whom? Corporates. If you say insolvency resolution for non-corporates, we'll have to use the term bankruptcy. Very good. So insolvency resolution and bankruptcy for non-corporates. For corporates, insolvency resolution and liquidation. Non-corporates means we'll not use the term liquidation, we'll use the term bankruptcy. And in insolvency will happen in both the cases and we'll try to resolve in both the cases. Don't say insolvency and bankruptcy, say insolvency resolution and bankruptcy, insolvency resolution and liquidation. Part 2, 3, okay, respectively. Part 4 is about those IPs, IPAs, IUs, IBBI, okay, regulation of that. So it's covered in part 4. And part 5, miscellaneous. So what do we have in our syllabus? Part 1 and part 2, but part 2 partly. Because if you notice, I have written section numbers for you. 4 to 77 is what we have in part 2. Out of that, we are supposed to read only till 59. And that's where I was telling you that we have to read about corporates. And that too not fully. That too not fully. So how many sections in totality the IBC has got? 1 to 255. Don't say 255. Yeah, you know that. Because there are some alphanumeric sections, that is amendments, where they have added, where they have removed also. So that's where don't say 255, say 1 to 255. Along with 11 schedules. And it's not that this law again was implemented at one go. They are implementing this in phases. So some sections notified, some are still there which are not yet notified. And then regulations, like SEBI can make regulations. Here who will make? IBBI. Who will make rules? CG. Rules means always CG. Regulation means always authority. And who's that authority here? IBBI. When we read SCRA and I say rules, who will make? CG. CG, rules. Regulations? SEBI. SCRA, I said securities contract. So obviously there SEBI will come. SEBI is the authority. Kindly note that. FEMA, when we read, who will make rules? Good. CG. Regulations? RBI. Competition Act, who will make rules? CG. Regulations? Competition Commission of India, in short CCI. So regulations means, I am repeating again, always the authority, which depends on the law. Here the authority is IBBI. So whenever we say as prescribed, what does it mean? Rules framed by whom? CG. As specified, regulations made by whom? Authority. And whose authority here? IBBI. That's where in the glossary I said as specified by. One of the items is what? As specified by IBBI. We didn't say as prescribed by IBBI. As prescribed by CG always. Prescribed means CG rules. Okay, this is something fundamental which you'll observe in many laws, not just these laws which are there in your syllabus. Okay, sir. Then this I have told you, IBC is having IBBI as well as some adjudicating authorities like NCLT and DRT. IBBI is regulatory authority. IBBI is regulatory authority. And NCLT DRT is adjudicating authority. My dear friends, please understand. Adjudicating NCLT DRT. Regulatory authority IBBI. Whom will they regulate? IP, IPS, IUs. Acha. Now please tell me, section 3 I said there are definitions. Section 5 also there are definitions. So what is the difference between the definitions which are given in section 3 and which are given in section 5? Guys, what is the difference between section 3 and section 5? Both contains definitions. Both contains definitions 3 and 5. What's the difference? Very, very good, sir. You're absolutely correct. A very simple question. No, see, section 3 is there in preliminary, part 1 preliminary, which is for whole of the law. Whereas section 5 you can notice is there in part 2. So that means those definitions given in section 5 is only for what? Part 2, not for whole of the law. Over. First time I got this right answer, you know. In every batch I have to give this answer. That's where I clapped for him. You'll think, a very silly thing. No, but sometimes silly also is Billy. And people don't answer. Good. This shows presence of mind. Okay, 4277 for CIR. Right, corporate related. No, so insolvency resolution of corporate. So CIR and liquidation. Do I need to say liquidation for corporates? No, sir. We know if you say liquidation, it is for corporates. When you say bankruptcy, it is for non-corporates. We know it clearly. And when I say CIR, should I say CIR for corporates? CIR, corporate insolvency resolution. So in that only I have said C. Now some fundamentals, though it is not there in your syllabus, with respect to IPs, IUs, IPAs, I have told you, discussed it earlier, right? In short, some details, not complete details. You'll say, sir, why that is required? To improve our understanding on that part which is there in our syllabus. We have something in our syllabus from 1 to 59, no? So if you know this, what will happen? You will understand that 1 to 59 better. Are you getting it, what I'm trying to say? That's why please, once 5-10 minutes we have to spend on this. That's it. After that we are comfortable. So though they don't ask this in examination, but we should know it. IPs, what did I say IPs? It means professionals, right? Insolvency professionals, they are going to be professional, experts. What will they do? They will be involved in this resolution process and become the resolution professional. Carry out the business for the time being. Acha, sir, business is not stopped during resolution process. Yes, it is not stopped. Business is stopped when we talk about winding up. When winding up is ordered, business stops. But in insolvency resolution, why do you stop the business? The idea is to stop the business now. No, revive the business. So who will be there? Insolvency professional, that is IP in short. Who will verify the claims of creditors? Who will constitute the meeting of the creditors? IP. Okay, so that way I have given some brief about IP. Just read once, you will understand. IPs are the intermediaries. Can they be called as intermediary? Yes. Intermediary between whom? Company and also what? Creditors. Creditor driven. So creditor is the one and who's there? Company. Acha, can I call this company as corporate debtor? Instead of saying simply company or corporate, can I say corporate debtor? If there is a creditor, there should be a debtor, no? So obviously this is the debtor and there's a creditor. So creditor is driving this resolution process. Am I right? So you will come across the term corporate debtor here. You will not come across the word corporate or company. Corporate debtor will keep saying corporate debtor, because if the company is not a debtor or the corporate is not a debtor, why should it come under IBC? If it's a debtor, then it should come under IBC. So start using the word what? Corporate debtor. Corporate debtor. Rather than saying company or corporate. Simply corporate also not right. Corporate debtor. This is a creditor. So he's like acting as an intermediary between these two. Creditor wants some information. Whom should he approach? IP. Very good. Plays a key role in efficient working of this bankruptcy process. Encompasses a wide range of functions relating to compliance, adhering of the law, procedure of law, and also finance and accounts related functions he'll carry out. Example, he'll verify the claims of creditors, constitute a committee of creditors, run the debtors business during moratorium period, help the creditors in reaching a consensus for revival plan. Right? As I said, he will have to constitute and then help the persons to make revival plan and get the approval from committee of creditors basically, and then take the approval from even NCLT. This is what is being done in CIR process. Right? Study the company, give some input so that they can make what? A revival plan, get it approved from all the creditors, and then take it to NCLT. NCLT should approve it, then only implementation will take place. Acha, should the implementation, Pooja, you will answer. Huh? Should the implementation also be covered in 180 plus 90? Do you think that implementation of this plan which they make also is covered in 180 plus 90? No, I never said that. I've told rather that till the time NCLT approves that resolution plan, this is about making resolution plan, revival plan. That should be done in 180 plus 90. Implementation, how can we, we in the sense, how can the law fix the time? Because depends on the case. Sometimes implementation might take more time, sometimes less, depending on size, nature of business, business environment, and other various factors. Understood, uncle and aunties? So, do you think in implementation also he can be there? Maybe. But till the time that revival plan is made, who will verify the claims? Who will run the business? Who will constitute committee of creditors? Who will help the creditors in getting that consensus on the revival plan? IP. Who will be appointed as RP. First he will be appointed as IRP, then RP. IP appointed as IRP, interim resolution professional, and will become later resolution professional, that is RP. Sir, why like that? See, NCLT will appoint some person. Will say, Akash, you are the IRP. He is IP actually, and he is appointed as what? IRP. Like a chartered accountant appointed as auditor. Chartered accountant can be appointed as accountant, tax consultant, various ways, right? So IP can be appointed as liquidator. We have read already. If he is appointed during winding up, then he is called as liquidator. But if he is appointed during resolution process, he should be called as what? Resolution professional. But time being, we'll call him as interim resolution professional, in short IRP. Sir, why sir? Because creditors have to say yes to Mr. Akash. NCLT appointed, no doubt, but who has to say yes to it? Creditors. Then he'll become RP. From IRP he'll become RP. Yes, sir. In liquidation, IP act as liquidator, and in bankruptcy he'll be called as bankruptcy trustee. Actually, I should not write like this. I should write in liquidation, IP is a liquidator, and in bankruptcy, IP is a bankruptcy trustee. There he is not called as liquidator. He is called as what? Bankruptcy trustee. Are you enjoying it? No. Next, IPAs. As we said, the IPs are the members of whom? IPAs. So IPAs will regulate those members as per their own will and wishes. No, never. Will say always as per the law, as per the rules, regulations. So IPAs, to enroll and regulate IPs as its members in accordance with the code and regulations. Right? Next, use information utilities. Utilities. which will collect information. Only collect, segregate, disseminate. Come on, only collection is what is they have to do. No, collect, collate, authenticate, disseminate. Okay, sir, collect, collate, aggregate, authenticate, validate, disseminate, segregate properly. You'll also get a lot of information, no, from clients and different places. What will you do? First collect it. Now collate means put them at one place, and then check validity of it. After checking, then segregate it as per the requirement, as per the need, or as per the type of information which you got. That's what they'll do. But here not all the type of information, only which information? Financial information. Okay, Rasika, financial information of debtors in centralized electronic database, not manual, it is electronic database, and provide information to whom? Creditors, RPs, liquidator, or other stakeholders. They're keeping information for themselves. No, to provide to interested parties like creditors, RPs, liquidator, or even other stakeholders. The purpose is to remove information asymmetry. Remove asymmetry. That means bring what? Symmetry. And also to remove dependency on debtors management for critical information that is needed swiftly to resolve the insolvency. Like I said, we don't want to depend on Preeti to get the information if she wants to borrow money from me. Correct? I don't want to depend on Preeti for information if she comes and borrows money from me. So that's what they're trying to remove dependency on debtors management. We can get the information from whom? IU. Next, IBBI. To oversee the entities. Which entities? These entities. Which entities? IPs, IPAs, IUs. So to perform, IBBI will perform which type of function? Legislative, executive, quasi-judicial also. How many bodies in law we say normally we have? 3. Basics of law we've discussed. The one who proposes the law, the one who makes the law, the one who implements the law. So proposing and implementing the law is done by one body only. And then the one who makes sense, who gives sense to law. Correct? Proposing, making, giving sense. 4, but out of 4, 2 are taken care by one body only. Who proposes law? Government. Who implements law? Government. Who makes law? Parliament. Who gives sense to law? Courts, tribunals. Correct? So the one who proposes, okay, and makes law is doing which type of function? Legislative function. The one who is implementing the law is doing which type of function? Executive function. And the one who is giving sense to law is doing judicial, causal function. So please understand the role of IBBI. The authority is not a small authority. It's involved in every type of function, whether it is legislative, executive, and quasi-judicial function. But with respect to only these 3, IPs, IPAs, and IUs, not with respect to the whole of the world, or not with respect to every type of affair. It's only with respect to these 3. Sir, is it established? Very much yes. We have discussed in registered values also, if you are not able to recall. 247, we said CG delegated to whom? IBBI. They have made them as an authority as of now. Same we are talking about. So this is the IBBI which is established already 1st of October 2016. Head office is at New Delhi. For your information, don't by heart that. Just for information I have written there. New Delhi is the head office. Okay, sir. Now adjudicating authority. You know it is NCLT for corporates and DRT for non-corporates, and if you are not happy with them, then NCLT Supreme Court, DRT Supreme Court respectively. Followed section number 1. Okay, this is okay anyways, you know this. See, when we have NCLT DRT, NCLT DRT, is there any need of civil courts to come in? No, that's what it's written here. No interference or injunction shall be granted by any court, by any tribunal, by any authority in respect of any action which is taken by whom? NCLT or DRT, as the case may be. If they are looking after some case, if they are taking care of some case, let not any other court, tribunal, authority come into picture or don't come in between. This is as usual. I've told you, whenever specific authorities are there, then general authorities cannot interfere, cannot come. Section number 1. Don't give me looks. Tell me what is section number 1. Title, extent, commencement date. This is what usually we say. Usually, not always. But here section 2 is what is going to talk about applicability as well. So 1 is no doubt, as you said, title, extent, commencement date. But extent is geographical, which is covered here. And non-geographical is covered where? Section number 2. Okay, sir. So what is the title? The IBC 2016. Why are you taking so much of time? Come on, guys. Title remains the same. No, we change the title. Then extent, geographical extent I said, because non-geographical is covered in 2. Whole of India. No except. So time being, because there is no amendment as such as of now. Maybe it will come for sure. ICI will notify that amendment that you have to read, but as of now I have to read what is there. Part 1, Part 2, Part 4 and 5 is whole of India. Part 3 whole of India except Jammu and Kashmir. I am repeating again, this will for sure change and this will definitely be applicable also, but we'll wait for ICI to notify. Okay, so as of now what I am saying, Part 1, 2, 4 and 5 is whole of India. You'll say, sir, why Part 3 is for whole of, or was for whole of India except Jammu and Kashmir? Tell me, Part 3 is for whom? Non-corporates, partnership firms and all. So recall Indian Partnership Act, applicable to whole of India except the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Understood? That's where even whole of India except Jammu and Kashmir. Okay, next commencement date. Different dates are there, no doubt, but first date you have to know, and first date is 28th of May 2016. Okay, 28th May. If you can remember, I have told you important dates you have to. In MCQs, maybe they can be asked. If they don't have any question in mind, then they may ask this type of, sorry, but stupid questions. Memory based questions. Do you think it should be asked date of, why should we memorize? We are at CA final level. Asked us more of interpretation related questions, application oriented, not this question. CPT level, it's okay. When does the Indian Contract Act comes into effect? 1st of September 1872, and we smile like anything, right? That we enjoy that question. But here we should not enjoy these type of things. Chalo. Now section 2, applicability, but with respect to what? Non-geographical. Geographical covered here, non-geographical. So it applies to whom? This IBC applies to whom? Sir, companies, LLPs, partnership firms, correct? Individuals, companies governed by some special act, or corporates, if you say some body you say which is governed by special act, notified by CG should come here, then that may also come. Okay, some companies governed by special act, like you'll say, sir, electricity companies, insurance companies, banking companies, they also might come here, unless they give exemption, that's a different thing. Like you'll see later, banking companies have been given an exemption from this law, so it may come. Okay, foreign company, is it a company? Why will you talk about revival of foreign company? बाजू वाले का बच्चा परेशान हो गया, क्यों? बीमार है बेचारा, तो डॉक्टर अपन लेके जाते क्या? अरे neighbor's kid getting affected or is sick, why will we take him to the doctor? His parents will take care. Nah. So foreign company will not come, please understand. But then they also say the personal guarantors for corporate persons also may come here. Okay, company you mentioned, didn't you say that? Yes, company. नहीं भी है तो बोल दो ना, yes we said sir. LLP, partnership firms, individuals, then I added other company governed by others, act except if inconsistent. Then other body incorporate under any law as CG may notify in this behalf, then they may come. Then what is added? Not latest amendment, recent. Last year it happened. Personal guarantors of corporate debtor. I am the director of the company, of that corporate debtor. I gave a guarantee on their behalf. So who am I? Personal guarantor of that corporate debtor. So can these proceedings apply to me also? Yes, because creditor will not leave me. Oh, uncle, aunties, I have given guarantee on behalf of corporate debtor. Do you think creditor will leave me? No. So I was trying to run away actually earlier, saying that IBC doesn't apply to me. Now they said, no, turn back. Yeah, you are there. You also will have to abide by what is written in IBC. Understand? So, and then individual other than referred in above, that means other individuals also may come here, not just this. So this is a clarification which came because of some, sorry, but idiots. Few people didn't understand this and were trying to run away. So they said, bring them under the ambit. And if you want, we can bring some other individuals as well here. Okay, geographical, non-geographical. Now what is critical in this section 2? Other company governed by special act. Except if inconsistent, that's okay. That too you know, because general law, special law will prevail. And then other body incorporated under any law but notified by CG. This is something which you need to remember. Probably you will not be able to recall easily. So just try to remember this specifically. Okay, sir. So now preamble over, section 1 over, structure over, and then other basics, other introduction over. And you got some feel also about IBC. Right? You got some feel or not? IBBI, IPA, IPs, IUs, IRP, RP, IP. Correct? Tomorrow you will not be like blank, no? But those students who have not come today and come tomorrow, they'll be like, what RIP is talking about? Array, I said IRP, he'll say RIP. They'll be confused. See, if you also wouldn't have been there in this class, then don't you think tomorrow if you come and listen to these terms IP, IRP, RP, or IBBI, IP, IPAs, IUs, you'll be like, what is going on? What is resolution process? What is this implementation? And will implementation get covered in this period or not? All these doubts people will have, those who have not attended today's class. That's why today's class is important. Rather, any topic I'll tell you, beginning is very important. Initial 1 or 2 classes always holds importance, without which, it will become difficult to understand later part. I am not saying be absent tomorrow. That's not what I am trying to say. But I am saying in case you're not feeling well or something went wrong and all, and you don't come tomorrow or day after tomorrow, let's say, still you'll be able to understand IBC with the help of introduction which I gave you today. But if you don't come today and come tomorrow day after, though you are there in the class at the time of completion, but you may not understand properly. Anyways, lot of bhashan done. So let's go for what? Next section number 3 and section number 5, which covers what? The definitions. Sir, why did you write important definitions? As you know, expert level of knowledge is not required. So whatever definitions ICAI has covered in your syllabus or has given in their book, same thing we have also taken. Okay, so let us start with section 3 and 5. Acha, is there a need to segregate what is coming from 3 and what is coming from 5? No, because anyways we are reading for corporates only. That's where the differentiation is not required. No sir, I still want to know. Okay, why not then? It's good. Actually, if you say that, it's good. It's not bad. But it's not required as such. And anyways, company law, so many section numbers are there. If you have that zeal, then first buy out that. Then bother here what is exactly 3 and what is exactly 5. Something really important, the numbers I'll tell you. Chalo. So first one, corporate person. Very simple, sir. Corporate person means what? Company. Company registered under, defined under what? Companies Act 2013. Right? Yes. LLP is also a corporate person. LLP also is a corporate person. Even they say any other body, association where limited liability, the liability is limited, will also be what? Corporate person. And they've given some exclusion also in the form of financial service provider. Sorry. Corporate person means company, as defined under section 2 clause 20 of Companies Act 2013. LLP, as defined under section 2 subsection 1 clause N of LLP Act. Other person incorporated with limited liability under any law in force. Liability should be limited, then it can come under corporate person. So basically, if you understand company, LLP, limited liability, no? No sir, company unlimited liability, that is very rarely. Otherwise, the focus is on limited liability. If you understand corporate person, they're trying to cover that, and does not include financial service provider, they say. Why and all, we'll discuss that later. You just bother now, as of now, for what is included in corporate person. Next time when we say corporate, don't say separately LLP. Earlier maybe you were saying, I was not saying, you were saying, and I didn't stop you then because that understanding was not there. Now at least you can understand. Okay, corporate person includes even LLP. Okay, now corporate debtor. Next term which is defined here is corporate debtor. Who is a corporate debtor? What do you mean by corporate debtor? Sir, we know debtor, sir. Debtor means person who owes money. Who owes money to whom? Any person. Now if I say that debtor is a corporate person, then it becomes what? Corporate debtor. Simple, no? You know debtor and you know corporate person. Combine those two, it will become corporate debtor. So a corporate person who is a debtor, who owes money to some person, will be called as what? Corporate debtor. Corporate person who owes a debt to any person. A corporate person who owes a debt to any person is called as corporate debtor. Next, creditor. Huh? Creditor. The person to whom money is owed. If we are saying corporate person owes money to any person, this any person is what? Creditor. So creditor means any person to whom money is owed. Sir, this creditor should be always a company? No. Creditor can be even individual. Point is, the debtor which we are talking about is a corporate person in our discussion, always in our syllabus what we discuss. But creditor can be any person. So any person to whom money is owed. Achha, so does it include operational creditor, financial creditor, secured creditor, unsecured creditor? Yes, sir. See, creditor means any person to whom a debt is owed, and includes even financial, operational creditor, secured, unsecured creditor, and even decree holder, meaning going to court and getting order, getting decree. So he's a decree holder. No sir, he has not gone to court. Then also he is a creditor only. Whether he goes to court, doesn't go to court, it doesn't make a difference. He is a creditor. Creditor. Sir, will they ask this definition? Definitely no. But for understanding purpose, it's important. Few definitions they can ask in examination also, like corporate person. They may ask. Later on also we'll get few where I'll specify. Don't worry. That from examination point of view also important. Otherwise, from understanding point of view, these definitions are important. Later on, law becomes easy for you. Now, debt. We said debt is owed. Owes a debt. So, what is debt? Liability, obligation towards other person in respect of the claim which he has. Can it be operational debt? Financial debt? Yes, sir. So this is what we know. It's not that difficult again. Just that we need to understand this way. Acha. So sir, one thing we are able to follow before you continue is creditor means not financial alone we are talking about here. We are talking about operational as well. Operational means trade creditor. You know that already. I don't have to tell you. Supplying goods or services. Whereas financial means supplies funds. Financial assistance they provide. So debt means liability or obligation in respect of a claim which is due from any person and includes, come on guys, financial debt and operational debt. Now you might ask a question, what is a claim? So next one, claim. Very good. Claim means right. Like debt means liability, obligation. Same way, claim means right. Right for what? Receive money. Yeah, receive money. That's it. That's the only right. When we say you have the right, you have the claim. You can make a claim. Means only claim over money. Good. Don't you think quality, damages, these also, when you say that I have the right to claim, that means I can claim something. I can not just claim money, but there are other things as well. That means remedy for breach of contract, in short we can say, apart from payment, apart from money. So see, claim means what? Claim means what? It's a right. Right to receive what? Payment. Right to payment. Or right to have the remedies for breach of contract, as he said, damages. Right? Or as we are saying with respect to quality, so damages for breach of, remedies for breach of contract. If such breach gives rise to a right to payment, whether or not such right is reduced to judgment. That means whether the creditor goes to court or not, or whether fixed or contingent, whether matured or unmatured, disputed or undisputed, legal or equitable, coming from law, or no, it is something which is equitable, uniformity, principle, justice, yeah, correct, secured or unsecured. Let it be any type, we are not bothered. What we are bothered is when we say claim, he has the right to payment as well as remedies for breach of contract. Next, default. Default. It cannot take so much of time. Non-payment. Very good. Non-payment of what? Dues, debt, in whole or in part? Anything. Either whole or in part. Default. So means non-payment of debt in whole or part or maybe installment of the amount of debt which has become due and payable but still not paid. So non-payment, that's where we said, right? Non-payment. So again they're saying of the amount due and has become payable but still not paid. Due and payable. If it is not due, then obviously you cannot call it as default. Correct? No? If you have electricity bill today which has to be paid by, let's say 20th of the month, on 15th, is it default? No, because you have 5 more days you'll say to pay. After 20th, if you still don't pay, that becomes default. Financial information. Sir, from childhood we are reading this, sir. Financial information. Childhood meaning CPT, foundation, 11th, 12th, if you are a commerce student. What is it? Sir, information relating to assets, information relating to liabilities, information relating to charges. Are you getting it? In anything, financial information, cash flow, balance sheet. What is this all going to give us? Financial information. So records of debt is nothing but financial information. Records of liabilities when solvent. Records of assets over which security interest created. That means which is created, charge is created on those assets. Or records of instances of default. Or maybe balance sheet, cash flow statement, or such other information as specified. Specified. IBBI. Why do you shout for that? Isn't it? Specified means what? Already we discussed. IBBI. Prescribed. CG. Rules. Good. Fine, sir. Financial information. After this, I want to ask you financial position, not person. Next written is person, I know. But sometime later you will find financial position. So I am asking you financial position now itself. What is the meaning of financial position? Financial information as on a particular date. That's financial position. Good. Person now. Good. Any person, individual, company, LLP, firms, anyone you'll say. Sir, but why did they give? If anyways every person, then did they give it just like that, or they want to include something more? They want to include something more. Smarter answer. Since I've asked this, no? And the answer is includes PROI, person resident outside India also. With the help of this definition, they are helping us understand. Person includes person resident outside India. Now recall. Corporate debtor. Corporate person who owes a debt to any person. So any person means that creditor can be even for foreign creditor also. Now you have to understand in the context. Any person, so person even resident outside India. Same way we said creditor, any person to whom debt is owed. So this will be not just resident but also non-residents, that is the ROI, PROIs. If this is not written, probably people have doubts whether foreign creditors will come or not. They will come. If you have to pay money to foreigners, will they not cover it here? Yes, they'll also be need to give and write, otherwise they'll not give you funds. Okay, sir. Secured creditor, next one. Very easy, sir. Creditor in whose favor security is created. Same thing, you will have to use the word security interest instead of saying security. You might have said creditor in whose favor security is created. No. So I am saying instead of saying security, say what? Security interest. Question comes, what is security interest? So next definition, which says take the definition from SARFAESI Act. And when you go to SARFAESI Act, you understand what security interest is nothing but security. That's where I said security interest, it's one and the same. Is charge a security? Yes, it's a process of creating security, no doubt, but ultimately it's a mortgage, hypothecation. Yes, nothing but security. So in SARFAESI Act it is written, when we read SARFAESI, we'll understand. Transaction. Next one, transaction. Agreement, arrangement, correct. In writing. And this transaction is for what purpose? Only funds, transfer of funds and all. You already answered, you said business. That means it will cover not just funds but assets, property, goods and all as well. From or to. So please understand, any agreement, arrangement in writing for transfer of funds, assets, goods, services and all. From corporator or to corporator. See, transfer of funds means to corporator, no? Don't say from. To, that's where creditor and corporator is coming. But when it comes to assets and all, we'll say transfer of assets to corporator. Transfer of goods or services to corporator. Like that. To or from. Clear? What, Rasika? Able to follow? Now what is transfer? Sir, transfer means what? Sale, purchase, exchange, gift, mortgage. What is transfer? Anything, as I just now mentioned. But they have not given it like this here. What they said is, take the definition from PMLA or FEMA. And when you go to PMLA or FEMA, the same definition which we just now talked about is given there. Transfer includes not just sale, purchase, exchange, gift, mortgage, loan or any other form of transfer, they say. I am giving it to you this, but you have to return tomorrow. Is this transfer now? Yes. I am selling it to her. I am selling it to you. Transfer. Yes. She is selling it to me. I am buying it. Still transfer. Madam, gift from my side. Please, ma'am. Transfer. anything you talk about, whether sale, purchase, gift, mortgage, exchange, anything, it's transfer. Given where? PMLA and FEMA. Where did I get this definition from? Those two laws only. Are we going to read these two laws? Yes, it's a part of your syllabus. 6 laws contains what? This also, no? IBC, FEMA, PMLA, FASI Act, Arbitration Conciliation, FCRA. And security laws covers what? SCRA and SEBI. 2 laws. Okay. Now transfer of property. Next definition. Transfer of property. Sir, we could recall Sale of Goods Act. In Sale of Goods Act, we have read transfer of property means transfer of ownership. Correct? You say, no, I'll kill you, boss. Sale of Goods Act also forgot so early. Transfer of property means transfer of ownership. You've read in Sale of Goods Act. So, sir, transfer of property here means as per Sale of Goods Act. And the answer is no. Here they want to use the word transfer of property in broader context. That is where, kindly note, even if special property is transferred, still it is transfer of property only. That means if this asset I give as a security, how? By creating a charge. Okay, let's say I'm creating a charge in favor of Aditya. On this asset I'm creating a charge in favor of whom? Aditya. Is it transfer of property? Yes. You'll say, sir, you didn't transfer this ownership, you didn't transfer possession, you didn't transfer. Still it is what? Transfer of property. So this is in broader connotation. You cannot use it in a narrow sense. Normally Sale of Goods Act means narrow sense, only transfer of ownership. Transfer of possession is different from transfer of property, we used to say. But here it is not like that. They say transfer of any property includes transfer of any interest also in the property. Creation of any charge also on such property is nothing but transfer of property. Clear? All of you? Broader connotation. So you should remember this. If you forget this, your understanding is wrong. You will answer wrongly then. That's where I said definitions are important. Without reading definitions, if you get into law, you will misinterpret the law, which is not right. Any law you talk about, see the definitions. Read the definitions, understand the definitions properly, then read the law. It will be then interpretation, otherwise leads to misinterpretation. Okay, sir, we'll remember this, we'll not forget. This is what is critical point, which you should note. Transfer definitely is critical, because otherwise we would have thought of only sale, but they said purchase, exchange, gift, loan, all also. That's something critical. Okay, sir, no problem. Now we have understood, we'll not forget it. Okay. Next one, anyways, you know, adjudicating authority. Come on, tell me who's adjudicating authority? NCLT. We are discussing corporates. So obviously NCLT as established under section 408 of Companies Act. Why this is given? Clarification. I have told you earlier also, just now, when started the topic also I have told. Otherwise people may think that there is a separate NCLT, which is not right. It is the same NCLT as established under Companies Act. Good. Now next. Because we are discussing charge here, I want you to answer for these terms here. I know you will answer correctly, but I want you to answer. Charge, you know. Same way I want you to answer pledge, mortgage, hypothecation. Because when we say security interest, that means we talk about these things. So what is the difference between these, or what are these four? We need to understand. Tell me which property is involved in pledge? Movable. Mortgage? Immovable. Hypothecation? Movable. Charge? Movable or immovable? Next. In which case transfer of possession takes place? Very good. Only pledge. Transfer of possession will take place. Whereas mortgage, hypothecation, charge, possession is not transferred. Subject matter is goods. Property is goods. Otherwise it is, no, not otherwise, sorry. No. In case of mortgage it is immobile. Hypothecation, goods. Charge, mobile or immobile. Possession is transferred only in case of what? Pledge. Otherwise it is not transferred. And all this pledge, charge, mortgage, hypothecation can be called as what? Encumbrance. Acha, can I say charge includes mortgage and hypothecation? No, what no? Yes, you have read this in IBCC also. Definition of charge includes mortgage written clearly. And at least you see here, movable, immovable both are covered. And possession is not transferred. So obviously mortgage is charge, hypothecation is also charge. Okay, don't be confused later. We are going to be chartered accountants soon, huh? We in the sense you guys. Corporate applicant. Next term. Corporate applicant. Corporate applicant. Applicant is a corporate debtor. Why should we say corporate person? We'll say corporate debtor, no? That is where application will be made to NCLT. For what? Okay, application will be made to NCLT by the corporate debtor. Fine. For what? Resolution. Resolution, that is where recovery will take place. So resolution. CIR process, which is called a CIR process, resolution. Okay, sir. So is it only corporate debtor will come here who can apply, who can make an application? No, sir. If you are asking like this, obviously some more can be the applicant, who will also be called as corporate applicant only. Like if I talk about member or partner who is authorized by the corporate debtor or the constitutional document of corporate debtor, that person also is called as what? Corporate applicant. CEO or CFO of the corporate debtor is making an application. It will be presumed as if who has made? Corporate debtor only. That means still it is what? Corporate applicant. So please understand, corporate applicant means not simply corporate debtor. Oh, uncle aunties. Applicant, so making application. Application for what? Application for what? CIR process, resolution. So who's making that? Corporate debtor. But not just corporate debtor. They're clarifying this. That whenever we say corporate applicant, don't think of only corporate debtor applying. Even when member or partner of corporate debtor who is authorized to make application for CIR process is also corporate applicant. But authorization coming from where? Constitutional document of corporate debtor. Then any individual who is in charge of managing the operations and resources of corporate debtor. That's where I said CEO, or maybe I can say CEO, who are in charge of operations and resources. If he is filing, then also it is called as what? Corporate applicant. Or person who has control and supervision over financial affairs of corporate debtor. What happened? That's where CFO we said. He is applying also will be called as, deemed as corporate applicant. They are authorized. See, corporate debtor or corporate debtor should authorize someone. So if they are authorized, they are also called as or deemed as what? Corporate applicant only. Because they are coming on behalf of their corporate debtor. No? Okay, sir, but why did partner come, sir? Member was okay, but why partner? Who said? Very good, LLP. You know corporate debtor means corporate person who owes a debt to any person. And you know who is a corporate person? Corporate person is not just company but also LLP. So in LLP we'll have partners, no? So give the three definitions. Corporate applicant, corporate debtor, member or partner authorized under the constitutional document, right? Person in charge of operations resources, person in charge of finance. Okay, corporate debtor. Now corporate applicant. Now corporate debtor. Corporate person who owes a debt to any person. Corporate person. company, LLP, other person having limited liability there, but does not include financial service provider, right? Corporate applicant will give you a question on corporate debtor, and when you read corporate debtor, will give you a question on corporate person. So if you're reading corporate applicant, you'll have to read corporate debtor. Corporate debtor will have to read corporate person. Then only you can say it is complete. But because already we discussed corporate debtor person, so that's where corporate applicant is over now. Okay, sir. Now dispute. Next term, dispute. Oh, time up. Acha. I didn't realize actually with you. You make me just go into the subject and I forget that time up. So anyways, thank you all. God bless you all. Have a good day, pleasant day, and see you all tomorrow. Thank you, sir. Bye bye. And please don't forget this introduction. Please revise that and come so that tomorrow we can continue smoothly. Otherwise, you will also be like those students who will say IRP is RIP. Chalo, bye.